Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Family Matters. Tonight, schools reopening. Teachers have been asked to resume duty beginning the 28th of September 2020, which is tomorrow, the Monday. And of course, in July this year, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha had said that parents should consider the 2020 academic year lost. And now here we are, even as this Education Response Committee suggesting that schools should begin reopening in October. Remember, since March, when they were closed, a lot has been happening, including the burden this COVID-19 has had. Most of them, hundreds of thousands of Kenyans have lost their jobs, and of course, teachers and parents are part of these statistics. So we talk about preparedness of parents, teachers, and students themselves, financially, physically, psychologically, to resuming school. And next to me is Benjamin Zulu. It's nice to meet you after a long time. Since COVID we haven't met.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, talking about the psychological impact this COVID-19 has had and what we should expect. Is it the normal, or what new normal for learners should be, or what teachers should expect this time round? And not forgetting, there have been guidelines provided that they will be now wearing masks. Okay? And then we have Patrick Mwangi. Patrick Mwangi is the head teacher, State House Primary School. And I'm beginning my conversation with you. As a head teacher, are you prepared? Because tomorrow you'll be receiving the other teachers to your school.
Well, Purity, we start by saying that the journey to opening the school started back from March 13, when the first COVID case was identified in Kenya. And on 15th of March, the government of Kenya decided that the school should be closed. Since that time, parents, teachers have been out there anticipating what would come from the government. And as it is now, the fatigue that has been found amongst the students, and what the World Health Organization have said in regard to the flattening of the curve, I think definitely then we can easily say that the school are well placed to reopen. And the guidelines that were given by the Minister of Education last month on the new requirements, what new normal should be looking like for institutions, will be telling us that since March, when the schools were closed, Benjamin, learners have been at home and tired. They're saying, we are tired of staying at home. We want to go back to school. But from the psychological aspect of it, would you say they are ready to go back to school with the fact that the cases of COVID-19 are increasing, and you don't know whether you'll go to school, the new normal wearing of mask? Would you say psychologically the learners are prepared to resume studies?
Security, any learner who was somewhere they are going with their life, they never stopped learning. They went on learning. The average student who depends on being spoon-fed by institutions and teachers, and who is drifting along with the wind and waiting to finish class 8 or Form 4, or waiting to finish a degree, that would be the bitterest, the one who is complaining, oh, we are tired of this, oh, we are tired of the other. Who are you blaming? Did we bring corona? Listen, let me tell the learners straight up that we can't tell what will happen tomorrow. You're like a driver on the road. You don't know where there will be pothole, corner, bump. You just have to keep your eyes in front and just what you meet ahead. No need to complain. Those who are going somewhere, those who are trying to build skills, went on with their books, kept on studying. They're saying, this year won't be wasted of my life. I'll be a year older after 2020.
Yeah, sure.
I can't say I waited, and you will still be older. And so to the learners, I want to tell you, just changing where you're learning from.
And the decision to reopen schools by the CS, because when early this year, in April, May, and even part of June, he was very adamant, saying we cannot reopen schools before we at least get a vaccine or a cure for this disease. Would you say it's pressure that is coming from even the learners and teachers who are losing their livelihoods, that now he's working and rethinking of reopening schools in October?
I would say we are in an uncertain time. And the psychological effect is there on all of us. Even the government guys are also people. Sometimes they have to wait and see while still, remaining front saying we are bending, right now we are here, we are here. So you will hear a lot of back and forth as we navigate this uncertain terrain. What I would encourage is we do not too much become hard on each other. Let us be flexible. So for me, what I would, because what if this thing went on the whole year? We will still have to adjust somehow, whether it involves repeating classes or it involves teaching double classes at the same time, or splitting the curricula that you would have done in 1 year, you do it in half the year. I don't know. But for me, I would say it's not good to focus on the words from the leaders only, but also to look at globally. If you are the leader, what would you do on a larger scale? So for me, the change is uncertain to the human animal. Change is very sometimes traumatic or uncertainty, just not knowing what is next. We are not being insensitive to those who lost their job because of this. But again, I also want to ask you, those who are government and they were not stopped, the payment was not stopped. They continued earning. If I find that kind of person being beat, I'll tell them, my friend, you are the one
lucky.
whose view of life is wrong. You are given a long holiday to do other things, to develop yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you are not told how long it would be, each day you walk and you're not going to school, and you're still on a pay. You had time to grow some chicken, develop some skills, do some study. Your life was not stopped, just the environment that was changed. So although the change is uncertain, I'm saying this, nobody has complete control of it. I advocate flexibility.
Flexibility. Mwangi, on the flexibility, have all your teachers confirmed that they will be coming to school tomorrow, and the guidelines that were given by the Ministry of Education, especially on the social distancing aspect of it, maybe you can tell us how far are you in implementing that?
Before I get to the preparedness of the teachers, it's very important to note that the government has an obligation from the constitutional point of view. Article 43, it states very clearly that it has a mandate to be in charge of the academics or the learning in Kenya. If you go to Article 53 again, it talks of the responsibility of the government and also the parent. So there is no way the government will not look into a way that we are going to get back to school. And when we get back to school, the parent is also obligated by the same constitution that you have functions and rules that they are supposed to meet so that learning can be smooth. And if you look also at what we call MDG, Millennium Development Goals, number 4, talk of the sustainability of the education, and that law is held by the government. And you see the government has really tried to bring into the digital learning and also remote learning into the areas where the learning has not been able to be. As my good psychologist has said, it is upon every one of us to make it happen that all the children get back to school. As for the teachers' preparedness, teachers have always been prepared to be in school. As you know, there is no one time that a teacher is supposed to be out of the class when the learners are there. It is only that the learners were given a break when COVID came in. But as soon as they are called by the employer, they are readily able to be summoned. And they have been interacting with the employer, though not in a physical way, through online and other systems, such that the teachers can, when called, will not delay into returning to work.
And ensuring the safety of learners during this time, because COVID-19 is still, the cases are still being reported in the country, and some parents would be asking themselves, how sure am I of my child's safety? There were guidelines that were put in place by the Ministry of Education in terms of social distancing, ensuring every child has a mask, and all those sporting activities, the communication strategy in case of an outbreak. What sort of preparations do you have as a school?
One good thing that has happened is that the commission calling teachers back in good time before the learners are there, they would be able to do the post survey of what is required before the school actually reopens. You see, by teachers being in school, they will be able to form committees that would be able to help the children when they come back to know what they are exactly expected to do. There are some things like social psycho support which require to be done in school, since these children have been away and they have learned more than what was supposed to be learned in school. So the teachers will sit and make preparation so that as they come, they will find, the learners will find teachers who are ready to welcome them back. There are some other learners who have also undergone some and we can say unprofessional or some other social things which require to be taken off from them emotionally so that they can prepare for the actual learning. That is why it is very important for the teachers to be early enough. There are other things you see like distancing. It is the teachers who will sit in committees and decide on how it will be done before the actual opening is
Before
done.
the actual opening. And you tell us some of the expectations you have for the parents, even as the learners prepare to come back to school. But the Benjamin, a time ago, there was a time the association, the Private Schools Association, had indicated that about 120 private schools had been shut down because they could not sustain the schools owing to this financial burden occasioned by the COVID-19. You are supporting the reopening of schools, but what happens to these learners? Do you think this exercise is going to be smooth, especially for learners in those specific schools?
It won't be smooth.
Yeah.
At this time, Purity, nothing is smooth. You know, those who had fallen into inertia and lost their momentum, to jolt themselves back to the learning momentum and movement again, will be the same hardship there is when you had stopped your car and you have to lift it again. We all know from the basic laws of science that it's easier to maintain movement than to initiate movement. So those who had stopped moving mentally and kind of, you know, it will be hard. So for me, let's not look for ease. Let's not look for smoothness. Let's not look for just an easy transition. Rather, let us say, what can we do to get back on track? You know, the kind of thing, for me, if you ask me, the learner who was serious about their life, and those are the people who make change in our generation. The only thing they were hoping is that the exam will be administered. Those people are already learning. They can't wait to stretch to the next level, move to the next level. Anybody who let up and just, even if you take them to school, there's still the type that you have to push. So for me, I'm saying, it's personal initiative that will change everything here. Let's not look for ease. Let's not look for comfort. Rather, let us say, these times are uncertain all over the world.
Let me stay with you, Benjamin. Reopening of schools again. There's some parents who are of the view that we are exposing our children to this killer disease. You know, how do you convince them that it's okay to reopen schools and they will be safe?
We can see where the decision was based on numbers. What has changed so far, where we are. It's about weighing. For me, if I was a parent or if I was talking to parents, I would tell them, let's also remember that we are not minimizing corona, but we have never been in a completely safe environment. Corona is infectious. We can't compare it to the flu and other things that kids can, you know, contract. But if we put the measures of masks, the sanitizers, and then with the current, you can say, I'll give my kid and observe what happens. If things are you know, we hope we find the right leadership. And in many places, parents can always withdraw their particular kid in case you feel that their health is more at risk, you know. So for me, it's not the fear we are supposed to give into, but practicality. Measure, where did this issue come from? Is it, you know, reasonable? Am I still having control and say about what is happening? So for me, it's not so much, because if you hold back, you might hold back for a year, for more, and the kid falls out of step with many others.
And for you, Mwangi, with the knowledge that you've obtained about this virus, what should you do, or what is your level of preparedness as an institution in case there is an outbreak? Because it's uncertain. No one knows about this virus. It could be, the numbers could be going down, because today the Kenya Medical Association said we should not relax because Kenya is reporting low number of cases of COVID-19. We are also testing lesser samples of this virus. So what came to your mind, what is coming to your mind when you hear the medics saying, or raising a concern that, hey, let's not assume that the numbers are going down? And again, in case there is an outbreak, God forbid, what sort of preparedness in responding to this disease have you put in place as a school? Or should the Ministry of Education put in place in all schools?
Purity, God forbid for it to come again. What is it that the WHO has said? Simple instruction. We wash our hands regularly as runners. We keep distance, put on a mask, and sanitize. Those 4 basic principles are the utmost solution to the problem that is existing. As we are regarding to WHO reference in the way of managing COVID, and we have seen as it is, the curve is flattening. If we go back to school, that is the message, that is the gospel. Let the children keep distance. Let them wash their hands regularly with clean water. Put on a mask and social distance. And that way, we can see we'll get back to the right track, and this country will be just like.
And what you've said, will it apply in schools or students, pupils in your school, looking forward to coming back to school? What should they expect? What is the change? What is the new normal for them as they come back to school?
While we have agreed that all the teachers would be back to school, I would assume that whatever is going to happen to my school will happen to all the other schools. That we shall have some points where the children can clean their hands, wash their hands. All the children will be provided with masks so that there will be no that contamination of direct inflow and keeping distance. If we all do that in all the schools, definitely we are going to overcome the COVID-19 challenge.
All right. Zulu, during this COVID-19, the reports have been coming out on the number of Kenyans that have lost their livelihoods and their jobs from COVID-19. And of course, most of these are parents. Their parents. So when it was announced that this academic year, maybe schools could be opened in January, most of them relaxed. Yeah. And now they are being told we could be reopening next month. There is a lot of confusion. There is a lot of rush, especially preparedness for parents, getting school fees. So how will this pan out?
As a psychologist or as a life coach, the general, if I was to talk to a parent who was having a child and they're hearing this way, that way, is to tell them that, remember, it's not the school that will finally receive this child, it's you. And you should not let up thinking, oh, they're not going back now. Okay, let me, it's to say, okay, learning must still go on.
The mistake has already been done. The school fees was used because they lost their jobs and therefore they couldn't continue keeping this, and used all their savings. Some people, even as we speak, they are up country. They couldn't sustain themselves in town. So, what is going to happen to these parents, and how well should they be understood or handled?
For me, we must still be flexible. I don't think the schools will be assuming that we cannot tell what happened. I think a parent who is determined can still negotiate with school and do what they can do in their particular circumstances. And sometimes you might have to change schools when your financial status changes too much. When you realize that things ahead don't look the same way, you can't continue incurring the same bills you were incurring. Just the way people have changed how they live or the houses they live in, sometimes you might have also to adjust schools. So it's not just that particular school talking to them and maybe staggering your payment, but also the same way sometimes looking for a school that maybe it is now the one that you can sustain or afford, or looking for other ways to compensate. I remember, Purity, you said that it may sound radical, but it works. If you cannot control the change, try to see which opportunities the change has brought. Negative self-pity, negative attitude, self-pity, sinking depression. Nobody has ever won with that attitude in this world. And this world, we must remember this, it will be a struggle, one way or another. Even before COVID, life was not easy. We are not minimizing the effect of COVID. People lose their job, they feel very destabilized, but we want to tell you that you are not finished. If you look up, you still find another opportunity. The skills you learned in that other, it's about adjusting and flexing, and I hope one of these days we'll be able to discuss, especially the industries that are being attacked the most, affected the most, like the art, performance, public performance, or comedy, or music, or people who are depending on gatherings and events. Those people are the first ones to be shut out because of social tourism, you know. But do you know, I also meet many in that industry who told me, you know what, this is the time I discovered myself. This time I knew actually, now I can follow where my heart leads me. So I'm realigning my life. Is to say, instead of looking at what has happened wrong, let's sort of see what opportunity has this one represented. Maybe there's a time to remember, if you lose job today and you're in hunger tomorrow, it also tells you were not saving, you are not planning for, you did not have a plan B. And I always tell people, whether you are, however much you're paid, if you're living on your salary, you're living beyond your means, and you are dependent on another person. This could also be the time to evaluate how we manage our money, whether it's little or it is much. The people who believe that they're given more money, more salary, their life will improve. And that's a very mistaken belief. Your life improves according to how you manage what you're getting.
Okay, a discussion for another day. But you see, the mistake has already been done. Observing these guidelines that have been provided for, it comes with a lot of financial obligations. Does it mean that even the fee structure for the parents will change? Because most of them are scared that even as schools look forward to following these guidelines, ensuring the social distancing, and most importantly, their students are their learners are washing their hands regularly, you know, is there some sort of financial burden on parents?
Purity, along what you have asked, if you look at the ideal situation in a school, there has always been water. For example, water is a common item in an institution. So what we are trying to say is that there should be more points where these learners can access water from. So it may not necessarily have to be inclusive so much financially. That has not been there before. The only thing we are saying is that now we have to be, it is a must. It is a prerequisite for any learning institution to have a source of flow of water, a mask for all the learners, which has not been spelled from which direction it can come from. The government can provide, which it has willing to do that. So what we are saying is that those small things, and he has, Benjamin has said it, it is not coming out of the normal. It is still the very, very normal thing. Because you see, like, when this COVID came, and when everybody did not have any much information about it, we thought maybe from the low-income homes, that is where it will be more evident. But as it has proved, it is not the case. So it's not necessarily that this is related to any way more with the way we have or we get our income. Is about our behavior. So we can have little, but if we are optimistic to change according to what WHO has given as condition, then we'll still move and everything will be in the right hand. Yes.
Benjamin, let's agree that with this COVID-19 that people lost their jobs, and yeah, the mistake happened. Most of Kenyans live from hand to mouth, so there were no savings. And even the school fees were used, you know, because parents thought that it's not this year. Schools are not reopening, at least not this year. So there's that parent who is in a dilemma that now, what happens if it's in October? What do I do? You know, maybe you can speak. There's a lot of distress that is coming with this reopening of schools, as much as teachers are saying we are ready, and parents and learners are saying we are also ready because they're tired of staying home. The parent, yes.
You see, Purity, I cannot prescribe a miracle and say he should perform some magic. But
that's the reality.
Yes. What I can tell you is not, because I'm not speaking, if I was speaking with one parent, I can explore with them from where they sit. But I tell you the truth. Every parent who has a child by this point, they have encountered similar circumstances before. May not have been to the same degree, but they can tell you a time when the wind blew from the wrong direction and left me unstable. But the way I faced the situation with courage, I found a way out. If they approach it, because one thing I tell people, if you sink in self-pity and especially complaining, and complaining, why are they? The moment you adapt that, you become on the receiving end. You fall out of step with the flow of events. So for me, I like what Mwalimu has used, optimism. Saying, okay, All right, so that is what is happening. Let me see what I can do. Some of these people, actually, if you approach Mwalimu like this and say, this is what I can get now, if you give me this kind of, I can, and I'll keep in touch with you, Mwalimu, this is what I'll be doing. This thing had happened. If you come with what the managers of school, the head teachers are looking at is not just your financial situation currently, but how much committed you are. Remember, Purity, wherever you had gotten that money from, even if circumstances have changed, you are still alive. You can still work elsewhere.
Okay.
There's no point of us standing and say, okay, we know now you are finished. You sit there and die. We can't prescribe that. We must tell them, shake yourself somehow and see what you can do. Because again, you can't keep the kid at home.
As the Minister of Education, Patrick communicated with you on how especially this curriculum is going to be, because there's also a lot of uncertainty in terms of if October, if the reopening is in October, then it means there is already an academic year or term that is lost, and there's also the issue of candidates, whether they are sitting for the exams right now. Maybe you can tell us what you've heard or received from the Minister of Education.
Purity. Most of the people handling the curriculum in this country are professionals. We know very well at what point that we left the syllabus coverage then because of COVID. Or what we are saying is that if we change the term dates and we are given the time, or what we'll do, we'll just adjust to from point where we were, and those children will get all the content that they are required to cover before they do the exam. At what time will be decided. So for the teachers, because they are well set and they understand what they are supposed to do, while we are given the time limit of when the term will end, I'm telling you, and all the parents in this country, let them know that the teachers would do exactly what they are expected to do within that time framework.
And there are already suggestions that it should be, the term should be covered between October and November. You know, we expect a crash program. If that happens, then we expect a crash program for learners. How do they adjust to this?
And as I said, the government did not take away books or take away the permission to be.
But there are people who, let's say, live in places where, like for example, I was having a conversation with people living in informal settlements, and you don't have any opportunity to learn because you're using the same room with your parents, and therefore you cannot wake up at
Are you
night.
locked there the whole day? They were at home during the day.
Not really.
Purity, don't sympathize with laziness in the name of need.
I'm sorry.
That's not needy.
I'm sorry.
That's laziness. I grew up in such an atmosphere myself. There were no rooms, no study tables, no nothing. Let me tell you the truth. A person who wants something, they will do it.
Okay.
They will do it. I do not tolerate, we couldn't study, you know, circumstances like this. And I just have my, understand. Life will never understand you. You got to somehow push ahead. These kids had a lot of time. They could help with the chores here and there. When you're at home, you can just, but again, you can, in fact, I tell them, if you just study 3 hours a day, just 3, intense learning for 3 hours, you'll be ahead.
Let me challenge you again. There are places where girl-child education is not embraced. And therefore, as a girl, if you're at home, then, chores, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And again, you cannot learn. So most of these people learn in school. When you come home, you will be serving even your brothers who you're in the same class or same school with. What
Are you serving them the whole day?
Not the whole day, but you're doing this and doing that. So you'll not have the same time, you know, the same opportunity with your counterparts. You know, what happens to such a group of people? I'm still sympathizing.
There's no home I know that kids are busy 7 to 7. You'll be busy for some hours, and if you want to study, you still create yourself. And I tell you the truth, I know many people who, the environment you're describing, I came from that.
Okay.
Lucky for you, I'm not an outsider. A person who wants to study will still find 1 hour, 2 hours in between whatever is being done. They will negotiate. They'll still find time to read on their own. What we are lacking among our learners is self-drive. Self-drive.
Okay. We are winding up. Patrick, as learners look forward to resuming school, and as parents look forward to preparing their learners to come to school, maybe you can speak to them and let them know what do you expect of them as parents and as learners during this time of COVID.
Well, from my point of view is that learners are actually fatigued to be away from their teachers. They are willing and ready, willing, more than yesterday, to get back to school. For the parents, the school is still the same. The only thing that has changed is the scenario due to COVID. The school is the same. The teachers are the very ones. So there is nothing which have come in to break
So same
between the
environment,
teachers
same
and
teachers.
the learners and the parent. We have all experienced, and that's why we are talking about having the new normal. It is only readjusting to the new situation, but learning will still continue.
Learning will still continue and nothing will have changed. Let me also ask you in a minute, there will be a COVID-19 conference tomorrow, and of course much of the conversations will be about the reopening of the economy and how the new normal for this country should look like. As a teacher and head teacher in that matter, do you have any expectations?
Well, I would expect the reopening of the other sectors, because education cannot stand in isolation. So I'm imagining that positive energy will be put, or synergy will be put, so that as we open up the school, every other sector will open up, and also we shall be able to maintain the WHO standards, because we belong to the part of this world.
How about you, Benjamin? The COVID-19, as a Kenyan, as a psychologist, what are some of the expectations? Because most Kenyans are anxious and asking the president to open the economy. It's hurting.
I would say I can express opinions, but I won't make decisions. Okay, opinion also counts.
Yeah.
But for me, is to say I'm still in charge in my personal life. There are many, I have limitations. We have this lockdown, you can't go out past this time. But as I said, I believe my power ultimately becomes in ability to rearrange my life and keep something going on in the prevailing circumstances. I hope there will be lifting with measures. That's my best hope, that will go back to full throttle, that we can function, or tails are back. That's my hope. But again, I hope for the best, but also prepare for the worst.
Prepare for the worst, because anything can happen. You know, Kenyans have in many occasions prepared for the president waking up and saying, hey, we've reopened the economy, and then shock to them, curfew remains. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And of course, we'll be following you, Patrick, tomorrow. Teachers will be coming to school and see what kind of preparations you are doing.
Most welcome.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin. It's always great having you.
Most welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for also watching the show tonight. Schools reopening was our discussion, and of course just trying to see how prepared the parents and the learners are and what should go on even as we look at the new normal, even as the schools reopen and the school calendar, and a lot will be happening, especially this week and even as we enter October. So do tune in to KBC Channel 1 for also that program tomorrow. COVID-19 conference will be also coming, giving you the latest on what the head of state will be saying. My name is Purity Museo. Byron Abuli has been a sign language interpreter tonight. Do enjoy the rest of our programming and enjoy the rest of the week ahead.